What's up, guys? Today's podcast, we're going to be exploring the topic of purpose and calling. So first of all, I'm just going to throw it to you, Poya. Why did we even pick this topic?
Why do we pick this topic? It's a great question. I think it's just obvious in the name, purpose and calling. We all want to live with a purpose, I think, and like, what is the point of life if there's no purpose, right? And if we want to figure out where we're going, if we want to figure out how to get to where we're going, we need to know where we're going first, or what
Mm-mm-mm.
direction to sort of step in, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess what you're trying to say is it's almost like the overarching questions that's on everybody's life, whether you're Christian or non-Christian. The way that I see that we're touching this topic is because I feel like it's such a stumbling block topic in the world of Christianity. And people are always saying, "What's my calling? What's my purpose? What am I here for?" And so many people go through life asking this question, being confused what it is, when my theory is they actually know. It's usually fear that's stopping them from doing that. And how I know this is I've had many clients who've had situations, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. I ask them a couple of questions, and they usually find that they do kind of know what to do, but they're just not doing it because they're worried if this, and this is going to happen. So most of the time, what's needed is not purpose, but actually courage. Do you have anything to say about that, Boya?
Yeah, I agree with that. I also wonder if part of it is that sometimes you know what your purpose is, but it's not exactly in line with what you want for your life. Say,
Mm,
some people have a dream that they're holding on to, and it's like, but it's very much like not in line with what they like, I guess, are talented at. So say that you want to be like, I don't know, you want to be like a rapper, for example. Let's go with
mm,
that.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
you write some sick rhymes, but really what you're good at is like accounting.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Being an accountant would not be as interesting in a way, would not be as, I guess, as dynamic as being a
Mm,
rapper. But
yeah.
yeah, weird example. But do you get what I'm saying though?
I
Like,
kind of get what you're going, and it's good. I think
yeah,
you're speaking and you're bringing up points that I think most people would probably be struggling with or not really understanding. And I'm glad that you're bringing up those points because I would actually disagree, and I'll explain here. So first of all, I'll just
yeah.
share on this topic. This is probably one of the topics that I talk about the most in my work as a coach for people, because I think it's one of the most important topics that every human being can learn in their life. So the first problem is that people think that your purpose is your destiny. Now, let me explain the difference, right? Your destiny is somewhere that you might end up somewhere later on and down the track, but your purpose is in the here and now. Okay. No one told Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't think Arnold Schwarzenegger woke up one day and just said, you know what, as a baby, I just want to be a governor one day. What he did was he had a purpose, he had a compass that was leading him and making him feel like he needed to get into the army. So he did that. Then his purpose and his inner calling made him kind of direct him towards bodybuilding. So he did that. And then he had this inner purpose calling that directed him towards movies and then into being the governor.
Mm.
So your destiny is maybe where you're going to end up at some point, but the purpose is in the here and now. Okay. And I think what people do is when they're not really happy with where their life is right now, they'll usually dissociate with where they're currently at and they create fantasies for how it wants to be in the future. And I
Uh,
see a lot of Christians do this. They don't like where their life is right now. And they see all these people on stages doing these things that seem big and seem impactful. And they think, when is my break going to come? When am I going to be like that? But automatically, what they're doing is they're betraying themselves because their self already knows maybe they love finance and they want to do finance. Maybe they love being a sports player and they want to play sports. Maybe they love doing business and they want to do business. So as soon as we start to compare what we truly want from here to what we see on TV or on social media or what our preachers and teachers say, automatically that creates another level of confusion, which makes purpose really difficult to attain. Any thoughts about that, Boyle?
yeah, there's a lot there. So I really, look, yeah, I really like what you said about using Arnold Schwarzenegger as a example. So it seems like there's this constant flow. The way he moved through life was he was in step with he was very present.
Yes.
And so
Yep.
he's moving in one direction at a time as well. It's not like he's trying to be an actor and a bodybuilder all at the same time. It's like he did one after the other. And it was when he felt that there was a change. Like, for example, bodybuilding is like, all right, I've done everything I can here. And he felt a calling towards acting and then pursued that. So I
Mm,
wonder if it's almost like, yeah, like even in terms of like purpose, right? Like I wonder if even God gives us like a specific purpose for a period of time because he wants us to move in a direction. It may not
absolutely.
even be there. Yeah, I've seen that happen with people.
I'm so glad that you actually brought that up, Poya,
Yeah.
because like I'll give you a really good example. Like so many times in my life, my purpose when I first joined my sales job was that sales job. I was obsessed with it and I couldn't stop talking about it. And it was what lit me up. And I would wake up in the morning and I couldn't wait to go to work. And I would go and I would crush it and I would talk about it all day long. And I would research, I would train on it, I would get better at it. And 2, 3 years later, I got bored of it. And what people do is they go, oh, something's wrong with this company. Something's wrong with this job. I hate this job. I should have never come here. But hang on, that was your purpose for a period of time. And now the fact that you're wanting to go to the next place just means that your purpose and your values have actually shifted, right? So God does give us a purpose or a value for specific points in our life, right? For you, Poya, you've had specific points in your life where God's called you to do something, and then at another point, is God's called you to do something else. We hear all the time these stories about ministers who, were ministers for a period of time, and then they were eventually called into business, and that's what they're doing. Or people who had a value or a purpose at that time to do business, and then eventually to do what they're doing now, maybe in ministry. But often,
Mm,
what you'll find is it's important for it to be that way because whatever you eventually do next is always going to carry with all the lessons, the knowledge, and the insights from all the previous things that you've actually gone through. So I think the way that God has created the flow of purpose on our life is very true. So a couple of things that I'm bringing up here. Number one, purpose, like you said, Poya, it's it changes from time to time, and it's necessary for it to change. And your destiny, which is where you end up, is completely different from the purpose, which is in the here and the
mm,
now, right? Any thoughts on that, Poya?
yeah, absolutely agree. And it's almost as if the destination in a sense shouldn't be a focal point. Like as a Christian, I guess your destination, right? What do you want your destination to be? I wonder if the destination really should be I want to have served God well. I want when I reach eternity for God to say to me, well done, my good and faithful servant. Like that's the
Mm,
destination. And the way you
yep.
get to that destination is by walking in step with your current purpose. So that
Yes.
means maybe in your early 20s, you work as a data analyst and you do that faithfully. And then when you feel that it's time to go for a change, and maybe that changes ministry, then you go into ministry faithfully. And then maybe after that, it's something else. But like constantly being in step and stepping out in faith as well. Then that's the other thing, trusting that God will, in a sense, provide. And I think it's a tricky one, right? You don't want to just YOLO it and be like, oh, I'm just going to quit my job and pursue like
Mm,
another thing, even though I've got a mortgage and kids to feed and all that stuff.
mm,
Like it's a smart form of risk taking, I guess. Does that make sense?
mm. Yeah, no, no, no,
What are your
absolutely.
thoughts? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think what you said is really good because I think it's relevant for a lot of people out there to know because they feel like, well, first of all, what is purpose? And then they're kind of thinking, well, even if I had this purpose, then what's the point of me being here in this company? Because maybe that's what God's called you to, you know? Um, Also, this topic's really complicated unless I really unpack it in all its glory. But I think one of the things I'll say is like your purpose can show you something. I
Mm,
remember when I went to my first personal development seminar, and for the first time I looked at Tony Robbins and I thought, man, that is what I want to be. And I somewhere deep down in my spirit knew that eventually that's what I'm going to be doing, but I wasn't ready for it. I had to go through what I was currently doing to get to the point where I was ready for it. Right. So sometimes you're not ready for something as well. Right. And whatever you're going through right now is what God's actually called you to. And you might have the high value of music. Right. And it's hard to unpack this, but first thing, here's what I want to say. What is your purpose, right? Here's what I want to kind of break down. Your purpose really is a set of values. Okay, imagine, I want you to imagine there's a set of values. For me, it's personal development, right? Number one is personal development. Number two is business development. Number three is health and fitness. Number four is relationships. And number five is socializing. Now, we all have our order of what we find is most a priority and what is least a priority. As you go up that list, you're more inspired, you're more enthusiastic, you're more disciplined, you're more focused, you're more consistent, you have more attention on that area, and you're better at that area. As you go down, you procrastinate more. You say things like, I forgot to, I didn't get around to it. This is why when it comes to business, no matter how hard it is, I'll find a way to get things done. But when it comes to cleaning or some area that I don't really like to do, then I'll always make excuses and say, oh, I didn't get around to it. I'll do it next time. I should, right? Whatever's highest on that list is your purpose in that moment. So for me, there was a period of time where personal development is my purpose. That's what it is right now. But there's a period of time when I was a bit younger, it was gym. And that was my purpose for that time, right? So any thoughts on that point? Anything you want to kind of say about that?
So are you saying that your purpose is directly tied to what your top values are?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
understanding those, so then understanding those values would help you to understand what your purpose is.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Because here's the thing, right? People, especially a lot of Christians they talk about the topic of purpose as if it is some woo-woo,
Yeah.
complicated topic, and your calling is to serve God. Yeah, everyone's calling is to serve God. But in which specific area are you going to be serving God?
Well,
Because
yeah, it's
if everyone was a builder, then there would be no cars, there would be no movies or music or cinemas, or no one doing finance or no one teaching in these specific topics. Everyone is called to a very specific area, right? And I feel like the purpose of life is to serve God in your highest values. And it's so cool that when you do something in your highest value, it's often the thing that you're giving and serving, but it's also the thing that makes you feel the most fulfilled. So it's such a privilege that God's given us the opportunity to serve us in our highest value and serve the world, give him glory, and enjoy it at the same time. That's the
mm,
beauty of purpose.
do you think part of pursuing your purpose well is like, do you think by virtue of it being purpose, God's at the center, or is that like a conscious decision? So, for example, say your highest purpose, so your highest value is business, so you want to pursue that. By default of it being your purpose, by virtue of it being your purpose, is it already in default like being done for God, or do you have to consciously center it around God?
That is
Is there a
such a
risk that you
good
can center
question.
around yourself?
That is
Yeah.
such a good question. That's such a good question. So this is so good. So first of all, I'll just say this. Um, the for the past 4 years, I'm going to be really honest here and say for the first 3 years, if I'm being honest, in my business, personal development is my highest value. So I was just doing personal development and business because I loved it, because I enjoyed it. And if I'm being honest with you, I wasn't really in my head consciously thinking, oh, I'm doing this for God, right? Just like you can be praising in worship on a Sunday at church and consciously just thinking about what you're going to eat next, right?
Mm.
So I wasn't really thinking about God at all. But this year, I've only decided to really just kind of go, okay, I love doing this, but with the intention I'm doing this for God. With the intention of when I'm sitting in front of a client and I'm doing this in my head, I'm kind of like going, I'm doing this for you, God. Can you help me? Can you help me say what I need to say? And it's kind of like I feel like having that intention for doing it for God is extremely important as well. And the reality is that everybody has value. God has given everyone a set of highest values, and everyone's highest values is the way that they can either do two things: either serve themselves or either serve God, right?
Mm.
And I think it all comes down to a choice. Are we using these values to serve ourselves, or are we using these values to serve God, right? Now, I would say to the person who doesn't know any of this, the first thing that you could do, even if you're a non-Christian, is pursue your highest values, because that's going to fulfill you and satisfy you. But then the next level would be to do it in the way that I think God has called us to do it, which would be serve your values for God, right? So anyway,
Mm.
does that answer the question?
Yeah, there's actually a scripture I want to get out. Let me try and find it. but it's where is it work as if you're
Oh,
working.
whatever you do, do it for the Lord.
Yeah, that one, that one. Here we go. I think it's
Yeah, that. Yeah.
Colossians 3:23 to 24. Let's go with the NIV because that's a reliable translation. I like that one. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters. Since then you
Yep.
receive inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. Right. And how
Mm,
beautiful is it that God has given us something, and it's scientific. We've all got a list. We've all got just like we have a fingerprint that's so specific to us. We all have a specific set of values, right? In this very specific order of what's most important to least important. Least important for me is cleaning. Highest important to me is personal development, business development, health and fitness, relationships. Everyone has their own specific order. Okay. And as you go up, you're more disciplined, you're more reliable, you're more focused, you're more inspired, you love it, it's most meaningful to you. And as you go down, the exact opposite happens. And that is the case for everybody. And at the highest on that list is the way that God has called you to serve on this planet. What a beauty that it is something that we really get to enjoy doing and serving and bringing honor to God. It is an absolute, I think it's just the most beautiful thing ever. But boy, I want to ask you this question, right?
mm,
We've talked about this topic and I've introduced this topic to you. We've discussed this topic a lot. What has been your metamorphosis of understanding this topic over time?
mm. Okay. I think I'll try my best. I'll try my best to break it down. So I think one of the big things is figuring out what my values actually are and what I love.
Mm,
Um, that's still a journey I'm kind of on, but I think part of it is looking at what do I consistently move towards. So I think two of my highest values are people and art. Most of my time is spent either hanging out with people, supporting people, whatever, like just being around my mates. And then after that, it's like either working on some creative projects or watching films or, listen to music or even just go to art galleries and things like that. I probably don't go to art galleries as much. I want to, but yeah, I guess the point is I love art. So art and people are probably two of my highest values. So I think for our uni, like I I was always pursuing like just a 9 to 5 career and all that in like the tech space. Um and it wasn't in line with where I guess my deepest, I guess it wasn't my highest values. And I think like there was a period where I was looking for work for about a year. Um I had to think deeply about what my purpose is. And I was applying for all these jobs like banks and stuff or whatever, and wasn't getting
mm,
traction. And this might be relevant for another podcast, but there's a moment where I let go and I just was like,
go for
whatever,
it.
I'm unemployed. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to burn
Yeah.
myself out applying for jobs because I'd apply for jobs for like 12 hours a day and I'd get burnt out. This during COVID as well. Like
Yeah.
my routine was work out, apply for jobs, go to sleep. Eventually I kind of just like trusted the process. Anyway, I get like a bunch of job offers, and one of them was with a charity or a not for profit, and I was really torn between this and a bank. And I think the big thing for me was what are my values as people and helping people and social justice.
Mm,
And so I was like, all right, I'm going to go with this organization, and it's been awesome. I definitely feel like my purpose is there for now. I've
mm,
done some really cool. I've had the privilege to do a lot of really cool things. Um, I think I've definitely brought a lot of value to the organization, the team I'm in. And I don't say that to make myself look good, but like that was my purpose, like for the time. And yeah, does that make sense? Yeah, that's pretty much
yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
kind of the big one. And I think the other thing is like stepping out in faith and trusting that like God will provide. Like I guess like the salary I was offered was a lot less than what the bank was offering me, but I trusted that I'd be okay. And yeah, and I have been okay. Like God has been
Mm,
very gracious. I have a really wonderful life. Sure, I could be making a lot more money at a bank or whatever, and nothing against working for a bank. I've worked for banks before, and they're awesome. They're fun. I had a really good time there, but my purpose now is to work for this organization that helps a lot of people.
mm,
I think that are really marginalized, and for me, it's like, yeah, God has still provided an awesome life, even though I probably could have had more money in another job. But
Mm. So would you say, Poya, that your
yeah.
values, it's almost like you had a value on the previous on the whole bank thing, but your value changed to what you're currently doing now?
Yeah, actually, I think my value was probably just like having security.
Yeah,
At the time, like just having a job and just having like an income. Because
yeah.
I didn't work much during uni. And so after uni, I was like, well, I just want to be able to provide for myself. And I did that and I worked on a contract for a year and that was good. But then after that, it changed from security to actually like having a job with deeper meaning, I guess. So it was like,
Mm.
oh, like I was kind of torn between. I was like, oh, I could work for just any company as an analyst and, I'll be able to make an income, provide for myself, buy a house, all that sort of stuff. And then I wasn't actually getting any success in that. Actually, it was like all these red lights. And then I had to reassess. And then I started applying for jobs that were in line with my values, including a few. Well, I got reached. Actually, I got followed up for the bank job, but I started like applying, yeah, for jobs that for organizations that were in line with my what my personal values are, which is like social justice and helping people. And then that's when I got that job. So yeah, I guess there was a shift. The shift was eventually the value was like just survival, I guess, like security. That then changed to like actually providing security for others and caring for others. But yeah, so maybe
Mm.
your values change as well. I don't know. Or maybe as
Your
you as
values change.
yeah.
Yeah. So just to give the context, right? I guess Poya represents in this conversation how most people will think of the topic of values. I have a very specific definition, which I'm not here to say it's the right definition, but I am to probably say it's the best definition that I've come across. So I guess it's just to set the context. It's two people kind of talking from one who believes he knows it with a very specific area, and one who kind of represents how most people will probably think about values, but also knows how I think about it as well. So one of the things I'll say is that on this topic that your values come from your voids. They come from whatever you perceive as most missing in your life. Okay, so right
Mm,
now, let's just say my highest value is personal development, right? But let's just say whatever reason, and this has happened to me in the first year, but even if personal development is the highest value, then during that time, I'm not doing well financially. I've got no money coming in. All of a sudden, finances and money jumps up to the top. So that becomes the highest value, right? And that may be the thing that I pursue for a period of time. And then once I fulfill that value and I got a decent amount of money coming in, and that drops back to where it is. So you can also have temporary values that kind of like, go up and go down. And then you can also have more solidified values that have been there for a long time, like for me, personal development, right? So your values come from your voids. My dad told me I was dumb and stupid and good at nothing. So I became obsessed with personal development, right? It became my way to fulfill that void of me thinking that I was stupid and doing and good at nothing. And you'll often hear those stories of people who are rags to riches stories. And often if you ask them about their childhood, it's because that they had a very difficult childhood around finances, where finances were really scarce. So it created this need in them, this hunger in them to want to find a way to provide financially for themselves and for their family, right? So that's one thing, and your values can change from time to time. So that's another idea of values. But honestly, values is one of these topics I can talk forever. Any kind of ideas or anything else that you want to touch on the topic of values? To be honest, I feel like let's keep going on this topic. Let's keep going on all the way till 9, because I feel like it's so big,
let's do it,
right?
bro.
Anything else you want to touch on in this topic? I'm sure
Um,
there's so many.
it's interesting that you said it's from a void because yeah, that makes sense. Like in uni, I didn't have a lot of money. I did not have a lot of money. Oh, it's interesting. So in high school, I didn't have any friends really. I mean, Kevin and I went to high school together, but you can attest this. I did not have any real friends. I was very much at the
Yeah,
bottom of the social ladder. And so in
so was
uni,
I reckon. What do you reckon?
yeah,
Did I?
uh,
I think I was.
yeah. I mean, we both were, but who was?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't. We're both low. We're both low. Maybe one was
But I
low.
was I
Yeah.
think like we both were, but I think I was a little bit better at pretending like I was at the top.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. Like, it wasn't obvious to me till after high school that you were at the bottom, But if you looked at me in school, you're like, yeah, this guy's got no friends. But
Yeah.
and that's why we have each other now. Yeah, and it's like after high school, one of my I realize now, I'm literally now like one of my highest values was social life. This is always going out. I was going to all the parties. I joined so many
Yeah.
societies. I got really into like Quidditch for a bit. Like, from Harry Potter,
Yeah.
if you guys are familiar, I used to play Quidditch, actually helped start the UTS team. Yeah. I think people still know
Shout
of
out.
me in the community. So, hey, Quidditch guys, what's
Shout
up? I think
outs.
it's Quidball now. They've changed the name. But yeah. So that was a thing. Like during uni, and my mum would always be like, "You're always out. You're always going out." And she was like, "Yeah, because you're trying to overcompensate because you didn't have a social life in high school." I'm like, yeah, you're
Mm,
probably right. And my studies took a hit, and all that. And then as I got older and I had less money and I didn't have a lot of my friends were becoming more responsible with their life, and the reality of responsibility was hitting me. That's when it changed to security and being responsible, and that's where I was looking for jobs so I could provide for myself and buy things that I want. And then it shifted to helping people, and now I think, it's interesting now that I'm thinking, what's my void now? Maybe now one of my highest values is pursuing authenticity. Maybe, I don't know, that's just a
well,
very open.
well,
Yeah.
I would say knowing it's funny, we still haven't actually sat down and figured out Poya's values, but I think I've got a quite like a rough hold on them. I think your values would be personal development, definitely some form of personal development.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, your definitely would be Christianity or like church or Jesus, something got to do with that for sure. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be on this podcast. And I think your values would probably also be definitely socializing, which has probably come, like you mentioned, as from a void.
Mm.
Um, definitely movies, right? And I want to actually say this, right? Having a lot of top values, a lot of even things that you're interested in, which potentially could be avenues, also make it very difficult to pursue your values because you're kind of going, I've got 5, 6 different things to do. What do I do? And this is where I would say there's a lot of utility in knowing your value hierarchy, because
Mm.
the more you know that music comes first, movies come second, maybe finance comes third, then you know what to put all your eggs into. You know to prioritize the number one because that's where you're the best, that's where you're the most inspired, that's where you are the most disciplined. So that's what you want to put a lot of your energy into. So for those of you who are sitting there going, I've got a lot of, interests and hobbies, for you, my suggestion is get to know your hierarchy of values so you can know how to prioritize you. And I also want to touch on decision making too. See, the way you make decisions helps so much when you know what your values are. I'll give you an example. My highest studies are personal development, and then you've got business and you've got whatever, right? And I remember there was a period where I had something to do business wise, and there was an activity, and I was sitting at home, and then Poya messages me and just goes, "Hey, Kev, do you want to come over?" Right? Like, and do you want to come hang out? Now, for me, I had a dilemma. Do I sit home and do I do this work, remembering that business is my second highest value, or do I go and pursue Poya's value of friendship during that time? So when I went to that and I decided for whatever reason I'm just going to go and hang out with Poya during that time when I had something on my business to do. Now, while I was hanging out with Poya, what do you think I was thinking in my head?
You know
Why
your
am I
business
not
stuff.
doing this business thing? That's right, right. But then if I did choose to do the business thing, then I wouldn't be thinking in my head, oh my God, I should have hung out with Poya, right? Because telling you that something is wrong. Remember, when you're doing something that is not in line with your values, you'll have feedback in your head going, why am I hanging out with this person? Why am I here? Whatever. So, as an example, I have friends who go, they don't like socializing. And because we live in a very social world, they feel the pressure or the injected value that they should be out socializing with everyone. So, whenever they're out with people, they have this voice that goes, why am I out? Why am I out? Why am I out? Right? As opposed to following their own value of maybe sitting at home and pursuing finance or pursuing a business project or whatever. So my suggestion is the more that you actually pursue your highest values, the less brain noise that you have distracting you and telling you that you should be doing something else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I wonder if it's just like when there's an incongruency, if I'm using that word right,
Yeah, for
with how you're
sure.
conducting yourself, it's like, yeah, you know it, right?
Yeah.
Do you think it's also part of authenticity? It's like, you're not being true to yourself.
Absolutely. So here's the
Yeah.
other thing, right? We sometimes we throw around words like authenticity, but I think it's wise to know that it does have a specific mathematical structure. So what I mean by that is instead of going, oh, true to myself, what is myself? It's important to know what your values are. Because once I know personal development is my value, let's just say my wife says to me, okay, let's go to this park or let's go do this thing or whatever, and I say, okay, fine, we'll do it, I'm not being authentic because in that moment, I wanted to do this. So so let's just say I want to pursue my business, but all my friends are going, let's hang out, let's go to the club, whatever. I'm not being authentic if I go and hang out with them because in my head, I still want to do business, right? So knowing your values also acts as a structure or a frame to understand where you're being inauthentic or authentic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And well, this ties into a question I wanted to ask. So say like you have your values mapped out, right? And say one of your top values, you want to be an actor, but you're middle age, you're a migrant, you're a refugee in their 40s, you have a wife, two toddlers, and you work in a factory because that's the only job you can get with your current skill set. And that could also give you the money to provide for your family. How do you reconcile the whole idea of purpose and calling with that situation?
That's such a good question.
But I feel
And
like,
first,
yeah.
thank you for asking that question. And I think it's such an important question to ask, especially when a lot of people are probably going through that. So, as an example, let's just say he wants to be an actor. Acting is his highest value,
Mm,
but he's stuck in this job and he needs to provide for his family. So, we've got a lot of options here. We got to realize that acting is a high value, not being an actor, not being
mm.
everyone has this idea that, if acting is my highest value, then my highest value means being an actor and winning an Oscar. Those two have got nothing to do with each other.
If I may interject, it's what you're saying is the destination is not the value, it's the action.
You put it better. It's the action of doing what you truly love. Now, the best example I can give of this is I had a client come to me, and because he didn't get into the cricket tryouts and he's obsessed with cricket, he ended up wanting to commit suicide. And this is a real situation.
Mm.
And I asked him the question, and his parents, because they said, you're too obsessed with cricket, you probably got to quit. And I said, I'm not going to ask you to quit. That's what you love to do. But let me ask you a question. Why did you get into cricket in the first place? What do you love about it? And he said, oh, because of the way I swing the bat and because of the way I swing the ball. And when I hit a six, the feeling that I get. And I asked him a question. What does that have anything to do with winning and being number one in cricket? And he was shocked for a moment. He was like, it's got nothing to do with that. And I said, so that's why you love cricket, because of all those things that you experience. And you don't need to be the number one cricketer in the world to experience that. And as soon as he was able to step into that frame, he's able to actually have fun in cricket. And the paradox is he actually got into the tryouts and he's actually slowly elevating up still to this day. So the first thing that I will say to someone who's doing that is, let's just say that you want to do something, find a way to do it, with the current lifestyle that you have. As an example, one of my clients is an actor and he said, I want to go win the Oscars. He had the same problem. But right now I said, how can you experience your value right now? And he said, well, making TikTok videos. And he's making TikTok videos and he gets to experience his value. That's the first thing I'll say. The second thing I'll say is, if you do want that dream and you're going, how do I make that happen now? It's even creating a plan that helps you eventually meet that goal. So not only are you incorporating, values into your current reality of finding a way to experience it, but it's also creating a plan of going, okay, for the next 5 years, I'm going to be building up this much money, and eventually I can deposit it here, and eventually I can invest in this, course, and eventually I can go off and do the thing that I want to do. So it's also planning your entire life around helping you hit that goal in the pursuit of that value. So now when you're working at that place, you see that is a means to an end. Now you see that this work that you're currently doing has meaning because it's the thing that's going to help you do the thing that you eventually want to do. So that's another way of going about it.
So what I'm hearing from that is I love that. That's an amazing, and it's such amazing stories as well.
Yeah. Thanks, bro.
Yeah, and it's interesting with your cricket client, right? Well, both those clients, right? So for your cricket client, for example, the moment that he wasn't focused on the destination, but rather on the action, when he let go, in a sense, it's when it all started happening, where he actually started getting successes, right? Similar with
And this is going to
your
be our
other,
next topic, and this is one that Poyo knows
yeah.
very well.
I'm all about it. Being outcome focused, but we'll go deeper into that in our next episode. But it's interesting as well with this actor client. That right now what he's doing is doing TikToks, and that in a sense is a plan he's drafted. I think that's the thing, right? Yeah, I think you're right. And it's like with values, right? The destination is not the value; it's the action. And when you reconcile that, when you have that clear intention that it's not about the destination, it's the action. I wonder if it allows you to like enjoy that value even more deep. So, okay, let's use the example of being, say, an actor, right? So you love acting, right? Just enjoying acting and maybe even doing it every now and then. Say that the example of the refugee I provided. When you're with your kids, you do little plays for them and they love it. And you do little monologues for them or do puppet shows for them. That's you acting. And then from there, I wonder if like when you're in the action of when you're in the habit of doing the thing, doing the value, it gives you those creative juices flowing where you can actually like create and put things out. So maybe you can create TikToks of you doing puppet shows or something, and then it kind of escalates from there. Then you can draft a plan, and create like different little streams depending on what outcomes you get.
Yeah,
Yeah, or even if
absolutely,
you want to
bro.
be a filmmaker, like maybe make a plan. I'm going to just make a short film, put it into a festival, and then then you can like kind of map out what could happen after that. But also but as long as you're doing
Yeah.
it for the love and you're focused on the love, you're not focused on the outcome as well. It's weird, but it's like, yeah, if you're focused on the action of doing it, it's like you enjoy the thing more. You're probably more fulfilled and you're more or you feel more yourself. But you probably would just naturally move in a way where you can make that the destination in a sense. Like you're more likely to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you're referring to such an important topic, which is the
Yeah.
paradox. And the
Yeah.
great paradox is that the more that you are focused on the accolades and winning and getting the accomplishment, the more likely you are to be in your head and not be present and
Yeah.
actually to do worse. But the more likely you are to let go of the outcome and just say, you know what, I'm doing this because I love it, the more likely you are to be in flow, in presence, and perform to a point where you're going to get noticed and get those accolades anyway.
100%. Actually, I've got this book. Cannot recommend this book
Oh,
more highly. Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Very good.
just
Oh,
one second, Poya. I just need to quickly do something. My son needs help. Can you just give me
oh,
1 second?
okay.
My bad. My bad.
BRB.
One sec.
I don't know if I'm going to edit this out, but I figure I'll just chat to you guys anyway. So today's a Friday morning, and yeah, it's a nice Friday morning. Looking forward to starting work today. Love my job. And yeah, today's a really special day, guys, because today is when Spider-Man 2 is released. I've actually put my pre-order in. I'm going to pick it up during my lunch break and then, set up the install on the PS5. So by the time 5 o'clock hits, boom, I'm ready. I'm going to be playing that bad boy. And man, I love Spider-Man, dude. I think Spider-Man's a really interesting character. He's got a lot of responsibilities, he's trying to juggle a lot of things, and he's trying to, figure out who he is and what he's all about. You know, and it's hard, man, because he's like, he can't tell people it's Spider-Man. So, he's trying to balance his job while also saving people. And then so sometimes he's late to things. We're like, hey, why are you late to things? He's like, man, like, because stuff. But he can't be like, hey, I'm Spider-Man, because then they know he's Spider-Man. Then they're at risk. And then because Dr. Octopus or whatever can be like, oh, Spider-Man is who's Spider-Man. He's like, oh, like, puts people get in danger, bro. Like, it's a sad time, man. But I love Spider-Man. Spider-Man's cool. But I also love Batman. Batman's a cool hero. Batman's fun. I think Batman's interesting because he's like obviously hasn't dealt with his trauma of losing his parents and all that, and so he just projects it by beating up criminals. And I thought the Robert Pattinson Batman movie was actually quite good. It was a rather good performance. Probably one of my favorite Batman performances. I think Christian Bale is still my favorite. Definitely a lot more heroic. Yeah, but I really quite liked Rob Patterson. I really like Ben Affleck actually. I thought, you know, he could add some better material to go with. And hey Kevin, I was just giving a
Hear me?
little, yeah, I was just doing a
Can you
little
hear me?
monologue for the, yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. No, don't worry. We'll just edit that part out. So,
Sweet.
Poya, you were telling me about the book. Tell me.
All right, so I got this book, Green Lights, Matthew McConaughey. Fantastic book. I highly recommend this. One of my favorites. There's a bit in there where he talks about, you know, he's just done his first film, Days and Confused, where he's like, all right. And he's living with this producer. He's like, you know what? I think it's time I get an agent. And then his producer's like, no, you need it too much. I can't do the accents as well as McConaughey, but anyway, he's like, no, you need it too much. You go on a trip to Europe with your friends, write some bucks, and then come back. And then he says he did that. He went for 3 months to Europe, just rode like some motorbikes around with his mates, came back, and the need was gone. And then after that, he just had all these meetings with agents, and he got an agent, and then boom, career took off. And his whole point is the need. They can smell the need. And the need is what kills you, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same in everything. It's the same in career, relationships, friendships. The need is what gets you. And so when you're focused on the
Mm,
destination and not on the doing, you're coming from a place of need. Even for me, when I was applying for jobs during that period, I was coming from a place of need, and they could smell it. And what happens is, yes, you get in your own head, you say weird things, you're not truly being yourself. And
yeah.
maybe this is a bit of a this is a bit of a weird take, but I think we're a lot more likable than we realize, like all of us, right? I mean, sometimes we're scared people won't really like us, we're truly ourselves. And I think and maybe that's a whole other episode, but I think when you're in your own head and coming from need, you're not being your true self. And part of being your true self is, I guess, living in step with your values, I guess. And actually doing that. So recognizing your values, the action, not the doing. And so when you recognize it's the doing, sorry, it's the doing, not the destination. So when you recognize it's the doing, and you're in line with that, then you're more in line with yourself, and you're being more yourself. And I think we're more likable than we realize, and then people are more likely to like you and give you opportunities. And so how this plays out in my situation was when I stopped needing a job, when I was like, all right, this is where I'm at. I'm just going to enjoy being unemployed. I'm going to still work hard, apply for stuff, but I'll just do 8 hours a day instead of 12. And then I'll just work on some other things that are for fun. And I'm going to have standards for myself and only go for jobs where I know they're aligned with my values. And when I
Yeah.
went into those interviews, not needing it, I was very upfront. I was like, if they're like, do you know how to do this? I'm like, no, I don't know how to do that, but I can learn. That's what got me those jobs. That's why I got two offers in 1 week from two great organizers
Mm,
companies. One, which is the community services organization I have the privilege of working for now. One, a very reputable bank. Both excellent
wow.
opportunities. But because I was just myself and I didn't come from a place of need, and I was like, you know what? If I don't get these jobs, that's okay.
Yeah,
And
wow.
yeah, I hope that made sense. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of how it
and
played out for me.
first thing is like I definitely knew you going through that experience, and I remember really speaking to you about that experience. And I actually remember there was a period where you were just like really hungry, really working for it, but also definitely coming from this place of fear of, oh my God, what happens if I don't? What happens if I don't? That was kind of, I could sense that that's the fear that was driving you. And I remember that when you got the job, I remember there was a period where I didn't talk to you much or see you much. And that was almost like the period that you kind of maybe learned to let go, but or didn't really learn to hold on as much and kind of learn to just go like, okay, whatever happens, happens. And for those of you listening, you've probably experienced that, guys, where when you're holding on to something and wanting it so badly, it never shows. And then that moment where you just say, okay, you know what, let's just let it go and see what happens. All of a sudden, it just lands on your lap, right? We've all had experiences like that. And that's exactly what Poy is talking about. But that's definitely going to be in our next episode. So we're going to be getting a lot deeper in that because it's a big topic, especially for Christians, right? So we'll get into that in a bit. Poy, anything else you want to say on purpose?
I think if you're having trouble identifying your purpose, I think pray. I think that's a big thing as well, is prayer. All
Yeah,
of this has to be done with prayer. Like if you're not asking God for help, it's not gonna, it could work out with your own strength, but it won't work out as well. And
yeah,
there's this,
yeah,
yeah, it's not your own strength, but God's strength. And I think that's a big lesson I've had to learn. I've only just learned that in the last week, really. But
yeah,
yeah, I think relying on God's strength and trusting in Him, and also checking your intention behind your purpose.
yeah.
Yeah, say you want to make a lot of money, your value is money. Cool. Why do you want to make a lot of money? what's like deep, and how do you set a godly intention with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and your job is not your purpose as well. I think that's another one, and maybe we didn't touch on that enough, but yeah, your job is not necessarily your purpose, and that's okay. That's also
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And watch the movie Soul. Soul's really good on purpose. A really interesting
Mm,
Pixar movie, really good exploration of purpose. But yeah, that's all I have left to
yeah.
say on that. Yeah.
Cool. We might even do a second episode on purpose because I have a lot to say on this particular topic. A lot to
Yeah.
say on the particular episode topic. But yeah, either way, we'll be in our next episode, or maybe even next episode, we'll be doing outcome obsession. So, I just want to say, yeah, what's the next episode on purpose, and we'll go a little bit more into the detail of purpose and how it actually works. But yeah, thanks guys. See you later. Bye.